Please tell us your name.
My name is Dekyi K. Dongretsang.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama asked us to record your experiences so that we can share your memories with many generations of Tibetans, the Chinese, and the rest of the world. Your memories will help us to document the true history, culture, and beliefs of the Tibetan people. Do you give your permission for the Tibet Oral History Project to use this interview?
Oh, yes.
Thank you for offering to share your story with us. During this interview, if you wish to take a break or stop at any time, please let me know. And if you do not wish to answer a question or talk about something, let me know.
Okay.
Okay. If this interview was shown in Tibet or China, would this be a problem for you?
Pardon?
If this interview was shown in Tibet or China, would this be a problem
Oh,
for
no,
you?
not at all.
We are honored to record your story and appreciate your participation in this project. Thank you, Dekyi La. So, let us begin by, perhaps you can tell us when you were born and where you were born.
Oh, well, I was born in Lhasa in Dekyi,
What year?
1942.
1942. So you are 70 years old.
You old, yeah.
70 years old. Okay. Dekyi, is Dekyi Linga? It's right inside of Lhasa or nearby?
It's in Lhasa.
It's in Lhasa. Okay. So the nearest temple was. The nearest temple was what?
Nearest temple was, well, I'm not very sure. I think the Debu monastery was a little,
Nearby.
Nearby.
Drebu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dekyi Linga was the residence of the British mission then.
Oh, tell me more.
The British, there was representatives, secretaries, and that was their residence.
Where you were born?
Yes, I was born there because my father used to work there. I think he was a secretary and advisor to the British mission there.
To the British mission. Can you tell us, for people who don't know anything about the British mission in Lhasa, can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't know much, but I think they were there to work with the Tibetan government, trying to settle down there.
Do you know when they
the
came?
British.
What year?
Who?
The British?
No, as far as I know, I think they were there from 1936 or 5, but I don't know much details, I was born there, but I know that much,
You know that much. And what did your father do? Tell us more about that.
I think he was the assistant to the British, the commissioner there, whoever he was. And I believe he also was an advisor working there with them.
And so, how many people were in your family? In your own family?
Oh, in my own family, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think.
5 children?
Yeah.
Was that 5 children or 2?
No, my parents, myself, my brother, and some male workers and all that.
Were you the youngest?
No,
or?
I was the eldest.
Oh, you were the eldest daughter.
I was the eldest.
And was given your father's position, what would you say in terms of socioeconomic levels? Were you kind of, at the higher levels in Tibet society, or medium or low? What would you say?
Oh, at that time, you mean when I was born?
Yeah.
Or maybe higher.
A little bit higher.
Yeah, because he was working at the British mission.
Right. How did...
I'm not sure because after that, when I was very young, we came to India.
I see.
Then we went back to Tibet on holidays and all.
I see.
But I wasn't really settled there, because my mother's place is in Gyangtse, not Lhasa. So we used to stay there also on holidays.
In Gyangtse?
Gyangtse.
Oh, Gyangtse.
Yeah.
And how far from Lhasa is Gyangtse?
Oh, how far? Just one whole Kazuya.
How far away?
She's asking.
She's
You may need to know.
2 days ride.
2 days
2
ride.
days, yeah, maybe on horseback.
On horseback
Okay.
to
Yeah.
Gyangtse. So, your parents, and you were the oldest girl. Were there other girls or boys in the family?
Later on,
Yes.
yeah, one boy and two girls.
And two girls. Okay. One boy. And do you happen to know how did your father get that job working for the British government?
No, I have no idea.
You have no idea.
No idea.
Do you have any memories of Lhasa?
Oh no, not much.
Not
No,
much.
actually nothing I could say. I was very young then. Then we moved to Gyangtse and stayed there. I have little memories of Gyangtse. The place is not the place itself, but where I lived.
Oh.
Mothers,
Yeah, tell me
family.
about what are those memories? What are
Oh
they like?
well, we had I remember having a 4-story building, big stone building, and lots of servants around, And we were children, so we just played around, go on picnics, doing all that sort of thing. Then we came to India
I see.
to study.
Oh, how old were you when you came to India?
5, 6 maybe.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact thing,
Do you know why your father left his post and came to India?
No, he was retired, I think. He wasn't keeping well, and then he got retired,
Oh, he retired. I see. And where did where did you move to in India?
Oh, Kalimpong, in
Kalimpong?
Darjeeling district, yeah, West Bengal.
And did he continue in poor health or did he get better? What
Oh,
happened?
poor health.
Poor
Poor
health.
health, yeah.
And so he was retired from working then.
Mhm.
How did your family survive financially?
I don't know, we had a big house, orchards and estates in Kalimpong, I remember that much. But how did it happen? Where did it come from? We were children, so we didn't have any idea.
You had no
I think it was a family inheritance wealth and all that.
That helped you a lot,
Mhm.
right? And so, what are some of your first memories of Kalimpong?
Oh, the first memories, going to school, playing around, the usual, nothing special. We had servants at home and we used to go out, play in we had a big ground estate, sort of thing, orchards and gardens, and so it was fun.
Oh, it
Just-
sounds lovely.
Yeah,
It sounds very pleasant and enjoyable
Yeah.
for a child. And what schools did you go to?
Oh, I attended St. Joseph's Convent.
St. Joseph's.
Convent, yeah.
And who ran that place?
Oh, maybe, I don't know, St. Joseph, it's a charity missionary thing,
Missionary?
school, yeah, all nuns were there.
Were they nuns?
Nuns.
So did you have to go to school early, like first grade, second grade?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you
From
did.
KG, kindergarten, we started going there.
I wonder, if your father worked with the British, did you learn to speak English even before you went to school?
Oh, no.
No?
No, I was very young, I was a baby in Lhasa. So
Yeah.
we came specifically here. My mother used to tell me that she brought me along, so that I could study in India, go have an education and all.
That was her dream for
Mhm,
you, huh?
mhm.
What was your mother like?
Oh, she was a very jovial, fun-loving, woman.
Do you know what her family did for a living in her own area?
Oh, they had lots of estates, land. They were sort of landowners. There are a lot of estates. Income was coming from the farms and all that sort of.
And that was her city.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you had a big, well, I guess, was it a big contrast to go from, I know you were little, you were 5 or 6 years old, but that's a big change from Lhasa to India, isn't it?
Yeah. But I remember India more than Lhasa. So
Do you?
Yeah, so I didn't have that
Con-
impact sort of changing places.
Yeah, you were comfortable. So tell me about school. What was school like for you?
Oh, school was very nice. We loved going to school because the nuns were very kind. We never had these beatings and punishments going on. And we were very young, KG, class 1, 2. It just passed off. We used to walk to school at that time,
Yeah.
1940s, and then walk in the morning to school, come back in the evening, 3:30 or 4. So
What was
that
the-
was the routine, you know,
I
all
see.
the time.
Yes. Were there other Tibetans in the school with you? Or were
Oh,
you-
yeah, few families.
A few
Not many, yeah,
families?
just few.
Really? Uh-huh. And was there anything that made other Tibetan families come to that school? Like your father, you know, he retired, so that was one reason, right? But why did the other Tibetan families come?
Oh, in Kalimpong?
Yes.
Oh, well, it depends, you know. Some people, they didn't know anything about education. Some couldn't afford it, I believe.
Right. So if at that time, if you say 19, you were born in 42 and you were about 6, so
Yeah,
we're talking about 1948,
48,
48, 49,
yeah,
somewhere
yeah,
in
somewhere
there.
there.
What's the town like? What's Kalimpong like?
Oh, it's a small trading post between India and Tibet, you know. There used to be a lot of business going on between Tibetan businessmen and the local people. Local means the business people over there.
Yeah, yeah. What?
Lots of woolen business going on. I remember these big trucks coming in loaded, you know, from Tibet, full of wool.
Really?
Yeah, all wool. And then they used to unpack them in the big stores in Kalimpong.
Do you know what they did with them then?
I have no idea. I don't know what they did. Maybe they sent it to their own places or made something out of them.
Yes.
It was a trading post between Tibet and
Yeah.
India
Yes.
at that time, the near border area. So-
Right. I think the British may have liked some of that nice wool. Maybe
Maybe
made
yeah,
its way to
yeah.
England, and then possibly back. So there you were. You go to grade school. You have a nice set of teachers. And what's your home life like? What's going on inside your house at that time? Are you come from a Tibetan tradition? So I'm curious. You're being raised in a Catholic school by nuns. Do you begin to take on their beliefs, or do you
Oh,
hold?
no.
No.
No, nothing like that. We just went there to study, but nothing was forced on us. You know, out of curiosity, I used to go into the church with my friends just to see, you know,
Yeah.
but there's nothing such like, I want to become a Catholic or something like that.
Didn't happen.
No, because we had a very, at home, if we were very Buddhist, you know, staunch Buddhist, my parents, so.
I see.
Didn't
What tradition was your family's
What,
in Buddhist? Yeah, what? was there-
Gyangtse.
Gyangtse? The Gyangtse, the Dalai Lama's tradition. And were there temples in Kalimpong where you could go?
Oh yeah, there was a monastery.
Really?
Yeah, we used to go there frequently, and then we used to celebrate some occasions there also. All the people around there used to come there.
And your parents had a happy life, it sounds like, in Kalimpong.
Oh yeah,
They did.
yeah.
That's really nice. So what begins to happen then? Like, so like you're, in 1948, you're 6. So tell us, like, what happens when you get to be 10, 11, 12? Anything change?
No, nothing much, nothing much.
Like, if
Before
you're-
that, well, once I remember we went to Tibet, Gyangtse, on a holiday, and we stayed at my mother's place. I don't know how long, but we had a nice holiday over there. Then we came back on horseback. I remember those, you know, on horseback. Oh, a lot of mules and horses.
Wow. You
Yeah.
must have been a good horseback rider.
Yeah, but we were small, you know, young. So we were put in a basket
Yeah.
on either side, inside a basket with blankets and some eatables in the middle. And there was someone else, you know,
Leading
the horse, you know, and cutting on the ices. I remember those just.
What an adventure.
Yeah, we used to do that.
What
And then go back and stop overnight at places, you know, with tents and have hot tea without milk, you know, those kinds of teas and
It's
sampa and all that. I just very little, you know, not very detailed, but.
Oh, it sounds very magical.
Yeah, now I think of it, it was. Yeah. Once when we were crossing a mountain, we were told not to look at the snows because we would be blinded or something. So everyone had these strips of green, red, you know, cloth.
Yes.
It was put on our forehead with the cloth hanging like this, so that the snow wouldn't affect our eyes.
Yes. Yes, they were
Yeah,
very
I remember
wise.
those sort of little things on the way, you know.
I wonder how long it took you.
I have no idea.
Such a journey.
No, I was young, so
You were young,
we were on a horseback. Then we used to come through Sikkim or Yatung, I remember once, or through the border, and then reach Kalimpong. But how in detail, don't remember, you know. Once I remember people taking me on their, backs, because there was no place to walk for the horses, so we were carried on people's backs and then moved along. Something like all hazy, but I remember those sort of on my trips. But
No
Yeah.
big roads home.
Yeah,
You had to
yeah.
really walk there
Yeah.
or ride by horse.
yeah, I
take by
think so.
horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, how lovely that your mother got to see her family.
Yeah, she's.
That it was possible to
Yes.
go.
Mhm.
That's very nice. And then, when does your life begin to change from your school days?
Oh, nothing much, but later on we couldn't go to Tibet. We
Why
were
not?
told the Chinese had come.
Uh-huh.
Then the trip was. Then we couldn't go back.
What do you
That's-
remember hearing about the Chinese coming into Tibet? Did you get
No, we were going to school busy with studies, but we were told the Chinese had come, and then now we can't go back to Tibet. Because at that time we had a lot of things in Tibet, Gyangtse, a personal things, lots of, we couldn't bring them with us because that was the last trip, I think. We didn't know about it. So when we were trying to go back, we were warned not to come because the Chinese had arrived, So after that, then we were in India all the time.
What was the warning about? Meaning, what were they afraid would happen to you if you went back?
I don't know. My parents, they didn't allow us. He said, now we can't go back because the Chinese have come and invaded our country.
Invaded?
Yeah,
So that had to be
That was
around
the
1958.
50s, yeah.
And you were born, okay.
Mhm.
So you were like 16 then around that
Yeah,
time when China was
Yeah.
had invaded Tibet. What happened to your life? Like did you go to high school after your grade school?
I finished my school, convent, whole school, and then we were thinking of going to college. At that time, I think in the 1959, all the refugees had come
Right.
into India, and there were lots of people coming without, anything. And then the Dharamsala office was set up in Dharamsala by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tibetan-in-exile government. So I was asked to come there to work,
Really?
to help with the office work, interpretation, translation, and all that.
What year was that?
1960. Actually, before that, going to Dharamsala, I went to Bylakuppe settlement. When it was first being set up, there were two camps then. 2 camps, and then they're all forests, and they were intense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard it was quite a primitive situation
it
for
was,
living
yeah.
conditions. What now?
And there were officials working there, Tibetan government officials, who had come from Tibet with His Holiness entourage. So they asked my mother, to send me along with them to help them translation and, writing, because there were none at that time, who could speak both Tibetan and English. But I wanted to go to college, So we had filled up the forms and all that, but my mother, no, this is your time to serve your own people, Like, she said, what are you going to do with further education if you can't make use of it? So you must go and work there, and later on, when you come back, then you can finish your college, go to college. So I said, okay. It was a complete new place. I haven't been out of Kalimpong that much, just in the district only. So I was sent there. Bylakuppe. There were tents and all jungle around. And I had to do all the, giving them, the Indian government used to give them rations, rice and dal and all that, and they all had to be written and signed, and then there was actually, I think maybe few, but no one could sign, everyone was illiterate refugees coming. So they had these thumb impressions to be done, writings to be done, requests to be made, And I was alone with the officials working there. They didn't know English, So we had these tents, office tents, with big lights, lanterns, no lights, lanterns, and working there, writing and doing all those office works. And big frogs jumping around. I still remember on the grass, big frogs jumping around us, and then we were doing the work. And so it was quite difficult. No sanitation, water was scarce. Yeah.
You were 16 or 17?
17 maybe, 17,
Maybe
18,
17.
yeah.
So instead of going to college,
Because 1 year I was in Kalimpong. After finishing school, I was in Kalimpong, trying to get into college, interesting what to do. And then this came along, so I had to go there.
where did you want to go to college?
In Darjeeling, there were good colleges. Yeah, I was thinking that.
Did you ever get to college?
No, not after that. Because it's a long story. When I came back also, I didn't have that chance, but I can...
Well, we'll
explain.
hear about
Yeah.
that story. So you really had to go to the frontier, the new
Yeah, new
frontier
frontier.
of Tibet
Mhm.
in Bylakuppe. Can you, for people who don't know what we mean by Bylakuppe, can you describe, the countryside and what it was like at that time? Because we're
Oh.
talking about 1960,
60, 61.
Like that.
Yes.
And the Tibetan people had, they fled with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in 1959. 80,000 people
Yeah.
started leaving Tibet. And the Indian government gave them this land.
Yeah,
How
this-
did they get the land? Do you know?
The state government, it was all jungle, I believe, forest, unused forest. So they were asked to settle there. So they used to cut down all the forests and get a daily wage, and tents were put up by the government, state government, and then every daily wage, it was sort of a survival thing, everyday thing.
What were the tents like?
Oh, common tents, white, small, I remember common tents like that.
And the weather?
Weather was okay, but hot, yeah. Maybe in June, July, it was very hot, I believe. I used to stay inside the tent and just look around, and you could see those, mirages from the road, all those sort of, what do you call it?
Heat, like heat vibrations or waves.
Yeah, we could see that.
It was that
And it
hot.
was all dust, The roads were all these ordinary dusty roads.
Were the Tibetan refugees that came there, what were they wearing? Because they had come from Tibet.
Oh, they were wearing the usual Tibetan attire.
Wool?
Yeah, whatever they had brought with them, Tibetan dresses. The men were wearing pants and things, but everything was what they used to wear in Tibet, So,
But the weather's very different.
yeah, different over there. Then slowly, I think they adjusted. They knew what to do, what to do, not to wear. And all that.
Was
Early
there-
morning, they used to go to work with all their equipment, whatever they had to take. And the evening, they used to return because they were in the forest cutting down trees. Because they were surrounded by big jungle forests, The opening was where they were settled, that was with tents and all that.
I see.
But around that, and I believe there were lots of elephants also there roaming around. I didn't actually see one, but I'm told there was 1 or 2 accidents also, They were killed by 1 or 2 people by the elephants.
They were.
Yeah, so when we see the swaying of the big forest, we used to be very frightened. And elephants are coming, they used to say, Yeah.
But what about, I heard that there were many wild animals in that area. What about illness? Because it's a big change in climate.
Yeah,
You had adjusted a little bit in your home in India, but what about the Tibetan people? Were they able?
Oh, there wasn't an epidemic or anything like that. It was nothing that bad illness. We had a doctor also coming in dispensary coming in to see them if anyone was ill. But otherwise it's okay. That was the first camp. That was camp number 2 where we were staying. And there was another one further away 1 mile,
Yes.
camp number 1. So when the camp number 3 people came in, then I had to go from there.
Why?
because not go, but the two officials there who were working there, my bosses actually, they had to go to Dharamsala for a meeting. So I insisted that I wanted to go also. I didn't want to stay there any longer. But I said, no. They said, of course you can come with us for a holiday. And then the local people, the camp, two elders, they're very big, old people there. They all came with khatak and asking me, oh, please don't go, please don't go. Why are you leaving us, And I said, no, I'm coming back, I have to go and see my parents and just for a holiday. And then I'll come back with the Kongos, we used to call them Kongos. And said, no, you must promise that you will come back and all. But in my heart, I said, oh no, I don't think I'll come back again, like that, But anyhow, they let me go. I said, okay, you must come with the Kongos there, I said.
What did they want you? I couldn't hear that. Come back with what?
With the two people, the bosses.
You must come back with them.
With them, because they were going to attend a meeting in Dharamsala, So I wanted to go with them to Dharamsala for a change, actually.
Yeah.
And they said, no, you must also come back with them, because they knew, it was a very difficult situation for me. I wasn't used to, all the hardships over there. And then they thought maybe I won't come, So they said, oh, you must come. Without you, how can we, work here? You translation, all doing all the written works for there, and then making all the lists, everything, complaints. We have to go to the local Indian people and say what's hardship they were undergoing and what changes we wanted. And there were lots of press people coming in, vast loads of press people. They used to come here every day, interview the people, show slides. And then they hadn't seen a Tibetan people before. So once or twice we used to go to a bigger city from Bylakuppe, the Bangalore city, to meet the officials over there, the local Indian officials, to see and have a meeting on. And everybody used to stare at us. My bosses, they were in pants and jackets or whatever, but I was in a Tibetan traditional dress, and I had very long hair also then. So everywhere you go, the crowd, they hadn't seen anyone like that in those dresses. That was the first time. So wherever you go, you see crowds coming after you just to see. Even in the restaurants, when you used to go in the restaurant, the waiters and everyone around staring at you. It was quite awkward also, sometimes embarrassment. Yeah.
This is in Bangalore.
Yeah, Bangalore, Mysore, yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Later on, they got used to it, of course.
Yes.
So many Tibetans going by bus up and down. At that time, in the beginning, it was like that.
That was interesting. You mentioned that like a lot of press were coming to Bylakuppe to interview or film the Tibetans, because they knew about the escape of these people.
Yeah, they knew that a whole lot of people had come to settle in their country, So the press people, they used to come quite often. Sometimes they came in busloads, different papers and all that.
What countries? From what countries?
Oh, from the local people, Indian press, yeah. Not the international press, not at that time. And then I had to do all the translation, show them around, or each tent and what did they do and what did they eat. I know all those things. I came in the newspapers quite often, they used to put up a Tibetan dress. Yeah, young thing and, all that sort of thing. I had lots of cuttings, but I lost them all, on the way. So I have no proof.
Well, you did what a lot of college students would like to do after they graduate. You just skipped college.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing all
you
that.
took on such responsibility. Amazing. So tell us how the story develops. You went to Dharamsala with your bosses.
Yeah.
And what did you do?
When I was in Dharamsala, the bosses used to attend the meeting. I stayed back waiting. I said later on I was going to go to Kalimpong to my family actually, and finish my college. And then the Tibetan Children's Village, in Dharamsala, TCB. At that time, Mrs. Tsering Doma, the late, she was the head, and she said, "Oh, Digala, why are you wasting your time doing nothing over there, waiting for the Congress? We have a shortage of people working there, so you come to my office there." So I went to the TCB village and worked there voluntarily, And before the Congress finished the meeting, I used to stay there and work there with the nurses, children, in the office work and all that, Tibetan village.
For people who don't know, first of all, tell
Mm-hmm.
us who that woman was, and tell us what was the Tibetan TCV, Tibetan Children's Village. Explain what it looked like and what they were doing. But who was the woman and who started it?
She was the eldest sister of the Dalai Lama, Mrs. Dekyi, and she had 1 or 2 people working with her in the office. That was all. It was very, not like this, you know. It was very, working people were very scarce then, you know, who knew English or whatever. So I used to work with her, under her, in the office.
But what was the plan? Why were they setting up these schools, and whose
Oh,
idea?
these were from, many were orphans, semi-orphans.
Really?
Yeah, people, when they came from Tibet, the parents died on the way, or some parents died when they reached in, India because of the weather, poor conditions, and you know. So all these orphans were taken. It was specifically set up for that purpose, to look after these orphans.
Do you know what percentage of children that went to the Tibetan Children's Village School, what percentage were orphans at that time?
I have no idea. At them, it was just, I just went there temporarily, you know, to work. I wasn't thinking of what percentage, but
Yeah.
there were lots of children. Yeah.
Can you remember what were the children's attitude or their emotions or their reactions to their new experience?
Oh, they were very young children, all of them. So they were happy, I think. Some missed their parents, but some were quite happy because they were fed well, looked after by the ayah, whoever looked after the foster parents. There were foster parents looking after them. So I just saw them happily playing around, all that. But I was more involved in the office work. Yeah.
And what kinds of things did you handle in the office work? What did they need done?
Yeah, it was like sponsorship things. It was all different works, you know, whatever came up to be done, you know.
Where were they
Writing
getting the sponsors from?
Sponsors from abroad, I believe. I was asked to write this letter there or this, you know. I wasn't a permanent staff over there helping out with what the other bosses were doing.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So,
So-
TCV has grown quite
Oh, yes,
extensively.
yes.
The
Mhm.
Tibetan Children's
Mhm,
Village.
mhm.
Are they now all over India, or did they start in Dharamsala? Is that where they
Yeah,
started?
it started in Dharamsala.
Uh-huh.
Dharamsala now, of course, is a big institution.
And they have schools all over India?
Yeah, they have, not all over India, but quite a few, I think, places they have, yeah.
So when you leave Bylakuppe and you get asked again, yet again, to help out again,
Yeah.
and you want to go home, but
Mhm.
you don't make it home, do you ever get back to your
Oh
home?
yeah, I did. My 2 bosses, they had to go back, of course, to Bylakuppe to continue their work over there. I was sent with some people going up to Kalimpong. So I went to Kalimpong. But I wasn't in good health then, you know.
Oh.
Yeah, because the diet down there was very poor, you know. We
Yeah.
just had rice. I remember rice and dal once. In the evening, it would be potato and dal, but no meat or anything. Sometimes it would be fried rice, but that would be all turmeric rice, you know, yellow rice. It's just sort of fried, no eggs or no meat or anything. It was very, but I got over. I mean, I could adjust, you know, very easily. But my health, I think, deteriorated. And then I was ill also for some time. 1 or 2 days, I don't know. I have no idea what happened, but I couldn't speak, you know.
Really?
Yeah, no voice coming because I had to do a lot of running around, speaking, translating. And then there was a family nearby. The daughter used to go to school in Mysore. So when she came for holidays, she used to help me. I used to stay there and she used to say, and then she touched the translation. I used to write and say what to say and what to do, you know, because I didn't have the voice. And then the 2 bosses, they were so worried. Said, oh, what happened to you now, your thing? We have brought you from so far away and then we have to take care of you. But now what? They were very worried for me, you know, actually. 2-3 days, I think, I just stayed like that. just taking some drops, and then later on my voice came. I mean, it was okay then.
Came back.
Yeah, came back. Then I told you, I went to Kalimpong. They sent me there for a holiday. So I stayed there. I wasn't feeling well. And then the doctors told me to take rest and good diet and eat well and all that. So I stayed there like maybe how many months? I have no idea, but 4, 5 months, I think somewhere around that period, 6 months. Then I was thinking now to go to college and all that. Yeah, I finished because I wasn't going back. I said, yeah, it was so
I'm
far
going to-
away, and you know all that. And then the letter came from Dharamsala. My mother said, "See, there's a letter from the Kasha. They asked me to send you to Dharamsala." My first response, "Oh no, I'm not going anywhere." But then mother said, "Oh, see, it's very important. The Kasha seal was there, and then you must go. You know, you can't just ignore. It's a very important piece of paper. You can't just say, no, I'm not coming. I won't allow you to do that. You must go. You can go there and stay for 1, 2 years, then you can come back, you know, really." She said, I thought, oh, okay, then 1, 2 years, okay. Then I had to go because of that letter, you know, they asked me to come, the Government-in-exile in Dharamsala. So I went to Dharamsala. I was sent there.
Explain.
Because my mother is very patriotic, you know. She's very, in that sense, she said, "Oh, you must do this for people, you must do this for them." So I had no thing, actually, say.
Explain what the Kashag is.
Kashak is the ministers of 4, 5 ministers together. They decide, you know, the whole decision is taken by them.
It's
and
like
they
the
have
cabinet.
they have officers under them that they look after, and
So they're the ministers
Yeah.
of the Tibetan government
Government.
in exile.
exile.
Was the government, well, maybe you can tell us when you got there. So you decided to go again,
Yeah.
reluctantly, but your mother was encouraging you to serve the government.
to serve the government and people and all that, you know.
So what was Dharamsala like when you got there?
Oh, Dharamsala, not a bit like now as it is. You have been there. Just a few houses. I just remember few houses. One big, one store, Naruji store. They had these tidbits and selling sweets and candies, biscuits. That was all, I think. It was all built forests and nothing much, you know. And then the English people had been there before. It was a
Yes.
cantonment or police, I believe. So there were 1 or 2 houses that were left by the British when they left, you know. So that was all, nothing much there.
It's a hill town, very beautiful, kind of in the edge of the
Edge of the,
Himalayas.
yeah, and from Pathankot you have to take the bus.
Tell
Bus-
us how
bus
long it
for-
took by bus.
Bus 4 hours, something like that. 4 hours, I think,
4
by
hours.
bus. Yeah, it was a nice journey, but up hill, you know, you have to go that way. And then there was the Daulada Range mountain. That was beautiful at the backdrop. Yeah, that was it. And then we had a small army cantonment. And there was a small, that was known as the Mangalore-Ganj, the one I'm talking about. And then there was a smaller one, Forsad-Ganj market, 2 markets. But few houses, nothing much.
Not too much.
Yeah.
And tell us what happened to you when
Oh.
you got there. Did you get a tent?
No, I was given a thing, staff quarter, one room staff quarter, and there was a big building, not very big, but it was left by the British. I think they used to stay there. And then we had 4 offices there: the security office, the home office, the religious office, and the education office. That were the 4 main offices then. Well, then I worked in the office, home office, main, and then I used to go wherever everyone wanted, the 4 offices, you know. Someone wanted to write this letter, that, or someone wanted me to speak to an official, local, you know, local office. So I was there all the time, running around all the people.
So you were
offices.
used as an interpreter.
Interpreter
with
and secretary and everything.
primarily with the Indian government or
Indian government.
primarily.
Yeah.
Really? Was it exciting or was it scary or what? I mean, what was it like? You're now about 18 or 19 at that time.
Oh, it wasn't scary, no, exciting. I think I liked the job actually because I could see it was helping people, lots of people, translating for them, taking them to the clinic or, writing for them. So it was satisfying work actually.
Like that.
Yeah,
I guess what I meant was the reason everybody is there is because their country has been invaded and many people are still being imprisoned and tortured and sent to camps,
Yeah.
labor camps. So, like, were you hearing stories from the refugees?
Oh
about-
yeah, lots of.
Can you tell us what kind of
Oh
stories?
no, they used to tell us how they were beaten up, taken to camp. They were known as thamjings.
Yes.
They were, and then
Public
beatings and all that. Then we used to receive lots of statements from these people, and all those statements we used to translate into English, and then send them out to internationally, different organizations and all that. I remember doing that most of the time because all these refugees used to come in, and they used to talk to these people, and then they used to write in Tibetan. Because they didn't know English, because he used to speak in Tibetan, and then they write in Tibetan. All whole pages, pages of pages, what happened to them, where were their families, public beatings, who was killed, what difficulties they had to undergo, all those things. And then all these pages I had to write in English, translate all of them in English, and make lots of copies, and then they were sent out in different places, organizations or whatever.
So the government
they were
was documenting the actual experiences
Yeah.
of people who just escaped from Tibet.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what some of the stories were about?
Oh, mostly were all typical sort of stories, First they used to say, who are you, when did you come? And then my parents were beaten up, or, it was sort of typical, what the Chinese did to them. Public beating was always there.
Public
Yeah, and imprisonment for many years, and then it was all more or less like that.
Did people talk about their property and their farms and houses? What had happened to
yeah,
them?
some did. Some say, all my lands were taken by the Chinese, but mostly were, just escaped. They didn't have anything like that. Some say, I just came running, escaped. I don't know what happened back at home, and they had all the same stories to tell. So.
And what about stories about how they actually escaped? Because Tibet's so large,
Yeah.
and people were coming from all over Tibet. Were you noticing any difference in
No, I was just doing the translation, actually. And then they used to say, I came through this place, but it wasn't sort of given importance at that time. What happened in Tibet was more
given
important.
importance
Yeah.
about what happened?
How did they suffer, what hardship they underwent. So that was all in Tibetan, and I had to translate them into English. And then there was a nearby Indian office, and there was a gentleman there he was the head of the office. He knew English and Tibetan. So I used to send my translations to him, asking him, please see if it's okay, make some changes, because my translation all English was school English, sort of, it wasn't professional thing. But I did I knew the translation was good, but how you put it, it was quite, so I used to send it to the gentleman, and then he used to send it back. Just one or two red marks. He said, no, it's perfect, there's nothing. And maybe, missed also, he used to put that, but there was always nothing, and I wasn't satisfied actually. But then he never changed anything. He said, no, it's perfect. And then he used to send it back to me in the office.
You were a good student. You learned your English very well.
Maybe, I'm not sure. But it wasn't a professional thing,
I just wanted to know, in any of the reports that you did, what were you hearing about the monasteries and the monks when people came in?
Oh, at that time they didn't have much to say, They said, monasteries were destroyed and this and that. But it was very early in the beginning, so their personal hardships or what happened to the monasteries, they used to say all that. Many were destroyed, or monks were, killed or imprisoned. But I don't remember the details of those statesmen, but there were so many.
Yes.
Yeah, we used to do all the so many through the years.
So, how long did you stay in Dharamsala?
Oh, I stayed, well, I was stuck over there now, you know, we were in the 4 offices, and then we moved to a bigger place in from that building to a bigger place. We had more offices, more staff, more people working. And I've been working there since, you know, until I retired, you know.
Well, let's get roughly around. You moved to the bigger offices when? What age would you have been? About 20, 25?
Yeah, maybe, let's see, 25.
What year? Do you think?
It was in Mortimer, 25, 26, 27, 28 maybe, somewhere around that period.
You would have been around 28.
Yeah, 28.
And you weren't married at this time?
Oh yeah, I was.
You got married?
Married 1964, 5, between that. I don't remember the thing.
Oh.
Because my husband was studying there, you know. We had a staff. There was a department that was grooming people to become staff, you know, teaching them English, Tibetan, writing, all that school. So he was working there. And we were in the same building, the quarters. So we met there. Yeah, so.
And if you were born in 1942, I don't think you. If you were married
25.
you would have been like 17. No, wait, what am I doing?
No. 1920. I might have been 25.
You might have been
24,
25.
25,
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah, okay. You might have been 25. That's more. And so that would have been like 1967,
16,
something like that. And that's when you were married. And I'm sorry, but say what he did for a living. He was what?
Who?
Your husband. What was he doing for a living?
No, he was studying there.
Oh, he was
Yeah, by the Tibetan government brought in people to study. They gave them some training, and then he worked in the offices like me.
Okay.
You know, there were officials there.
And did your parents come to the wedding or know about your marriage?
Oh, no, they knew, but they couldn't come. It was too far away.
Too far away.
Yeah, and then we had it it was a very simple marriage. So. At that time, there were no big weddings or marriages taking place. They were all, you know, elderly people then working in the offices, all elderly people who had come from Tibet, all big officials who used to work there. We were the younger ones, you know, just brought in and speaking English and all that. So,
did your life change very much when you got married?
yeah, maybe. Not much. It was the usual thing, but when my first son was born, then of course it was a little difficult, you know, for us to manage the child. And there were no facilities at that time. It was very, you know, a difficult period for everyone in working there. The wages were not, salary was not that big, and then, you know, and we had to hire someone to look after the child baby. That was an extra expense, you know, all sort of that. Otherwise, life was okay. We had.
So we're now like around 67. Can you tell us some of the highlights of the years that you worked?
Oh,
Excuse me.
I worked. I was working in the home department. Home department looked after all the settlements. You know, then there were many settlements, not only Bylakuppe, there were all different settlements that come. I used to work there for many years. And then I worked, I was sent to Tibetan Homes Foundation also, in between, for 2-3 years. Tibetan Homes Foundation in Mussoorie, it's like the Tibetan Children's Village. It's more or less the same, you know, taking children and sponsorship work and all that. I was the assistant secretary there. Then I was transferred back to the home, and we used to have, you know, then the staff people, they used to be transferred from one place to another. But I wasn't transferred outside, only in Mussoorie. Then we came back to Dharamsala. Then I was working in the Tibetan, at that time it was known as Information Office, International Relations, now it's known as. I worked there for some years also. And then later on, I worked in the health department, Tibetan Department of Health, that looks after the health, the clinics and hospitals in India. run by the Tibetan government. And then I worked in the Tibetan Delhi hospital. You must have. Yeah, I was the director, the administrator actually, for 2 years. Then I was transferred to the health department, all that. So working in different spheres and all that. But then in between, before, I used to go to other offices also when they needed me, like, oh, please do this typing for us or write this for us. Later on, of course, many people came around who finished school, Then we had many. Before, I was the only one there knowing English, so.
Who
And
had
I
that
did all the
skill.
typing work also for them. There were no computers at that time. Putting in these carbon papers, making 4 copies, and then again putting in copy because it was not enough, and doing the typing all over again, and I did lots of copy. I used to say, oh, my thing, this can should have been disappeared by now, because I used to do lots of typing, That's for all the officers. Whenever they needed something, oh, please do this typing for me, that. So I did lots of typings.
So you were really valued for your English skills and your secretarial skills and your administrative skills.
Yeah, and for my Tibetan skills, they had people, 1 or 2 Muslims I remember, who spoke English, but they didn't have the Tibetan writing thing, They spoke, but they couldn't write or translate. So that was one advantage I had over there. So I could be more valuable to them, helpful,
Yes.
Yeah.
In a way, I mean, this is like a whole society, a whole government trying to set up another kind of government that, because they had different needs once they were out of their own country, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they had a Tibetan government inside of
Lhasa.
Lhasa, but it functioned in that society. But when you moved it, it functioned, it had a function around orphans and health care, lots of
whole
things.
schools,
Education.
everything, Yeah,
What do you think were some of the biggest challenges the Tibetan government had to deal with as it tried to set up survival outside of Tibet? What do you think were the
maybe funds then. It was very scarce then, funds.
funding?
Yeah, funding was difficult then. Not now we have lots of funding coming in. Maybe the funding was there. And then personnel, experience, personnel to do. We were all sort of, we just spoke English and all that, but we weren't experienced in any specific,
Career or profession?
profession. Yeah. Maybe because of that. I don't know.
Do you think there was a lot of loss of the most highly educated, gifted people who were they killed by the Chinese when there was a government takeover by the Chinese government?
Not gifted, but all maybe the elderly people were there. And some very highly respected Rinpoches, monks also. And some were left behind, they couldn't come in. Yeah.
Because it would be your higher people might be targeted by the Chinese,
But
or they might be too frail to come because of their age, even if they carried the wisdom of the society.
Yeah, that's it.
What do you think was lost when Tibet had to leave Tibet? What do you think was lost of the Tibetan culture when the people had to leave their own country?
Of the Tibetan culture? Well, more or less everything was lost actually over there, the artifacts and the prints. But the culture, when we settled in India, we sort of, we didn't get it be lost or anything.
So what do you think was not lost? What do you think you were able to keep even as a whole society of refugees? Because that's what the society had to do to survive. What do you think that the Tibetan people have been able to hold on to?
Oh, the religion, culture, unity. I think culture and religion are still same as in Tibet, maybe more so.
Really?
United, yeah.
Why do you say even more so?
More so, I mean, unitedly, Because at that time, Lhasa was one place, but and Kamdo were another places, not like they were one Tibet or something.
Right.
But here now, everyone is together, as one nation, one thing.
That's true. That's true. Yes. Yes. All those distinct provinces have become more identified as
yeah.
one Tibetan culture instead of
At that time,
or
they had
Utsa.
their own local, leaders or whatever. They were sort of different from the Lhasa government. I feel like that, but
Yeah.
I don't know actually. I wasn't there, long enough. So.
What do you think is very important to be saved for the next generation of Tibetan children, like your own son? What do you think is important to be?
This Tibetan language, religion, culture, everything I think should be saved. These are the main aspects of the Tibetan.
And what about the religion itself? Because it's unique. Tibetan Buddhism is only
It's
exists.
different from others, yeah.
It's a very special kind of Buddhism. So what is it about Tibetan Buddhism that you think is valuable for the world?
Or non-violence, I think is the most valuable.
Why?
Or in this particular world, what's going on around us, I think non-violence, that Buddhist way of thinking and living.
Do you think that the Dalai Lama's request that there not be any violence towards the Chinese is one that's working for the Tibetan people? Do you think it's working? Do you think it's effective? Do you think it's going to, in the end, help Tibet?
Tibet, yeah, I think so. Yeah,
You do?
of course.
Why?
Because, I think eventually we will be returning to Tibet. We feel that way,
Why do you think that might happen?
It will happen.
Why do you think it might happen? I mean, the Chinese are occupying Tibet now, so why do you think you will be returning someday?
Well, we all have that hope and aspiration that one day we return to our. There may be changes in the Chinese government. It wouldn't stay in that was all the time stable.
Right.
We just think that way.
What do you think about
Not in my generation, of course. Coming generation, maybe.
in the coming?
Yeah, I'm not saying in my time. I'm going back on.
Yeah.
But we never know. Politics, we never know what's going to happen
Yeah.
suddenly.
One of the things that has been happening in eastern Tibet are the number of immolations, now
Yeah.
over 100. What do you think about that form of protest?
It's sort of a violent sort of, but not to others but to self. So His Holiness has asked them also not to take this step, take this kind of. So maybe it'll die down eventually.
Yeah. How were you affected by it in any way when you heard that all those?
Oh yeah, we were all feeling very sorry for the families.
Could you imagine why they would feel so desperate or not?
Oh, because of the sufferings they must be enduring under the Chinese over there. Maybe they can't take any more, or maybe they want the world to know what's happening.
More like a witness in addition to suffering. Yeah, I think so. Well, there must be many more things we could talk about, but I'm going to ask you, is there anything that you want to share with us that from your very interesting inside view of the Tibetan government in exile, growing and developing? Are there any things that you think it would be important for people to be aware of if they didn't know about that period of history that you could tell us?
Oh, I think the people should know when the government was set up, how it was managed, what harsh difficulties we worked under, all that sort of thing. Well, now they see the government here with lots of fundings and all that, but they didn't know how it was actually, started. Yeah, those people working there at that time, I know so many have passed away now.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who had come from Tibet, not from India, but from Tibet itself, with His Holiness entourage. Now, there's hardly anyone left, I knew so many of them,
Did
but
you?
there's actually no one. I'm trying to remember this way, that way. Oh, everyone's passed away, you know. So there's no one. So those were the main people who actually started this work.
They were the main
Yeah.
people. Yeah. Were there any that I know His Holiness is special to you as he is to every Tibetan, but is there any Tibetan like leader or official who you were very admiring of, who you found very, very noble kind of person that you worked with?
Oh, I just, they were all, I mean, in my eyes, they were all, you know, very hardworking and very loyal to His Holiness. But there wasn't any particular I remember now, but I don't know who was there. Well, I couldn't think of any one, you know. There were several, you know. I have some of their names also, I don't remember now.
I see.
Yeah, it was so long time, and I was very young then, you know. I wasn't that much bothered, you know, who was that and this. So I'm very sorry, but the situation then was different from now. So
different.
I wasn't thinking too much then of, you know,
Right.
yeah.
So you were actually in Dharamsala while the whole government in
Yeah.
exile began,
Mhm.
and you were married and had a child
Mhm.
then. Can you fill us in a little bit with how does your story develop? Do you have more children? Do you stay there? What happens?
Oh yeah, I stayed there. I worked there all through the years, you know.
Up until what year?
1995. 1995, I think.
1995. Did you come to the United States then?
No. I retired from the government thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, after working there for 25 years, you can take a retirement. But we went on working, you know. But,
How many years did you work totally for the government?
From
Starting in Bylakuppe?
Oh, starting in Bylakuppe is very long. 61, 71, 81, 91, 100, 145, 40 in between. I don't, you know, actually,
Over
you know,
40
I
years.
always count myself when I came to Dharamsala. I count from there, you know. The Bylakuppe thing, I always miss, you know. It doesn't come to my mind.
I counted.
Yeah, I
It
said
was a very hard job.
1962, end of I came to Dharamsala. So I said, okay, I worked since then, you know. But the Bylakuppe thing, it's always out of my mind, you know. Actually, I worked there, but it wasn't sort of an official thing, you know. I was asked to come and work there, but it wasn't. So I always forget, you know. I always say from Dharamsala, I worked in 62.
In 62.
Yeah, I came to Dharamsala.
Okay, you came in 62 and then you left Dharamsala. Oh, no, you
No.
retired in Dharamsala.
Yeah, Dharamsala, 1995, I think.
In 1995,
Yeah,
you
because
retired.
because then my two elder sons had come to the USA. You know the 1,000 people that
Yes.
the staff people could go. So they went in that thing, and then to have the younger ones come there, the parents had to come here. You understand that?
You know, explain people who
Yeah.
might not know about that 1,000 people.
1,000 people.
Yeah, tell people what that means.
Yeah, 1,000 people. We were asked to pick up 1,000 people to the United States. It was an official thing, you know.
The United
Yeah.
States government
Yes.
allowed
Mhm,
1,000
people,
Tibetans
yeah.
to come.
And then the Tibetan government said 1,000 people from all walks of life, you know.
Oh.
Yeah, from different, if they are eligible. And then from the staff, government employees, they said, oh, you can send one from each family who is eligible. But not all the staff, but above, who has worked this much years, they can send a family member there. But you can't go yourself, you know, you have to send someone from the family member. So we each had one allotted to us, so we sent our two eldest sons, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So when they got settled there, the younger sons were still studying in India. So, but they couldn't bring in the younger ones because it wasn't for different thing, you know, over there. So we had to come in. We came to bring in the younger sons, you know.
You had to come.
Yeah, so we had to come because of that, not because, oh, we don't work there, I like to America and all. It wasn't like that actually, personally for me. So we came to America and then we applied for their the younger sons to come.
How nice.
Yeah, so the years went on, it takes quite a long thing for this immigration
It
process.
does.
Yeah, so the younger ones came.
How many children do you have?
Oh, I have 5 sons.
5 sons.
Yeah.
And where are they living?
They're all here.
They're all in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
United States
yeah.
now? Okay. And you then, when you finally left, if you retired in Dharamsala in 1995, what year did you come to the United States?
2000.
In 2000?
2000, yeah.
Well, this is quite an adventure you've had.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life these days?
Oh, this is just nothing much. Now I'm retired also here, so no one gives me work because of my age, maybe. No,
Would you
I'm
like
just
to do-
joking.
Would you like to do a little work?
No, I used to do. Now not much, because of my eyesight, poor eyesight and all this. And
Yeah.
then, it's okay like that.
It's okay. Are you, as you look back on your life, how do you feel about the fact that you gave almost, 40
Yeah,
some
looking
years?
back, I feel, it was very rewarding thing for me, to have worked for the Tibetan government under His Holiness.
I see. So your mother gave you some good direction to
Yes,
go in.
of course. Now to think it was. Otherwise, I would have been going to college over there and roaming around in that area and doing nothing actually with my life. Maybe. I always feel
Was
that.
the work in the end, was it satisfying to do this kind of work
Oh,
for
yes.
the government?
Yes, very.
And fulfilling?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
If I had been given the chance, I think I would have done the same thing.
well, that's quite a statement. If you had it to do over again,
Mhm.
you would do the same thing?
Yes, I do that.
Very good. Well, this has been an honor to interview such a loyal government worker of the Tibetan government. His Holiness would be very proud of you and all of your work. Thank you so much for what you've done.
Thank you for having me on this
Oh,
program.
it's our honor, too. It's our honor. Thank you. Do you.
Thank you.
Why would you say it is so important for the people of Tibet to have compassion and forgiveness for the Chinese government? To forgive the Chinese government for taking away their land and all the indiscretion?
Why is it important?
Yeah.
Well, that's a Buddhist way of thinking, actually. Our religion has always taught us that, to think of others more than yourself.
What do you feel, what good has come from this, from the Chinese government invading? There's always good that comes out of bad. I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah,
And I'm
that's-
curious to you, what good? came
Well,
out of it?
I always feel if the Chinese hadn't invaded, we would still be in the same place, ignorant sort of, all these people wouldn't have seen the world and get education, all sorts of things. We would still be in the same way of living and life. So now we've come and seen the world, and all these people have been educated. The children wouldn't been educated. They may be in the monasteries, but they wouldn't have seen the world at all. We would be just there locked in our own kingdom.